Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. A girl is seen walking towards a store with a rifle. The young woman is named Cassie, and after entering the empty and destroyed market, she grabs everything she can find that is useful. When she hears someone asking for help, the girl goes to the back to check. Upon entering the room, a man points a gun at her. They both want the other to drop their weapon. He does it first and then asks her to do the same. She tells him to move his other hand, hidden under his coat. The man says he is injured. When he moves his hand, the girl sees something, and thinking it might be a weapon, she shoots him. However, he was only holding a crucifix. In a flashback, we see her at a party with her friends. She and her friend talk about who they have a crush on. As she leaves the party, Cassie sees Ben, whom she really likes, and they have a brief exchange of words. Moments later, Cassie arrives home and talks to her father Oliver, and then says goodnight to her brother Sam. The next day, Cassie has soccer practice. Her friend wants to show her something strange on her phone, but they are interrupted by the coach. Suddenly, Cassie notices that everyone else is on their phones because something important is happening. Later, Cassie's family watches the news about a mysterious UFO. Sam runs out of the house and the others follow him, only to see the large alien ship in the sky above them. During the first 10 days, the aliens made no attempt to communicate. People in Cassie's neighborhood start moving away from the cities, which is noticeable the next day at her school. Suddenly, all kinds of devices stop working. The young people in the class hear a noise outside and see a traffic jam on the road in front of the school. A plane is also seen falling from the sky, crashing near the school and destroying some cars. This was a reaction to the electromagnetic pulse the aliens had activated, the first wave aimed at wiping out all power. Later, Cassie's father picks her up from school. She looks at Ben and thinks it will be the last time she sees him. Fast forwarding some time, Cassie and Sam are getting water when the second wave hits like an earthquake. They run away from the falling trees when a giant wave appears behind them. Cassie manages to get Sam and herself to safety by climbing a nearby tree. They were the lucky ones, unlike the cities near the ocean. Tsunamis hit all coastal cities and islands, completely destroying them. After the second wave, the third was a modified avian flu that the aliens sent back to the planet, decimating part of the human population. Cassie arrives at her school, which has been turned into an additional medical facility. She sees her friend there and goes to greet her, but Cassie's mother appears and says her friend is in quarantine. She puts a mask on her and makes her go home. Days later, Cassie and the rest of her family hold a funeral for her mother, who died from the flu. After some time, Cassie is packing and preparing to leave. She ties Sam's shoes while her father packs the last of the items they will need. The three leave their home and begin the journey to a refugee camp. They arrive before nightfall and are welcomed by one of the main people at the camp. That night, Oliver calls his daughter Cassie aside and shows her a gun. He explains how she should use it and when. Oliver tells her she needs to keep it with her all the time and hide it from others. Cassie takes it, saying she thought they were safe there, but Oliver says nothing is safe anymore. Sometime later, everyone hears a strange noise and sees a cloud of dust approaching the camp. Suddenly, army tanks appear and park in the center of the camp, along with some school buses. Colonel Vosh announces that he and his men are from an army base and are there to help them. The army officers separate the adults from the children. The adults go to the dining hall for a meeting, and the children get on the buses. Oliver receives the same information as he and his children move towards the bus. Vosh interrupts his discussion with an officer and tells them the reasons behind the separation. He explains that the camp is in danger and, as they have limited transportation, the army has decided to prioritize taking the children back to safety. Oliver decides to listen to the colonel and gets Cassie and Sam on board. He tells her to take care of her brother and reassures them that he will arrive at the base soon. Once the children are inside, Sam realizes he forgot his teddy bear, and since Cassie cannot persuade him to leave without it, she goes to get it, making him stay on the bus. Cassie enters the shelter, but as soon as she finds the teddy bear, she hears the buses leaving. She runs towards them but cannot catch up with the moving bus. Meanwhile, Vosh informs the adults that the army believes the fourth wave has begun. The aliens have descended from their ships and are moving among the people, possessing the ability to inhabit human hosts and control their actions. The people in the camp become disturbed, and Vosh tells them that while they can detect the aliens in children, they still cannot detect them in adults. Everyone asks about their children, but the colonel tells them that the kids will be kept in a different facility because there is no way to differentiate humans from aliens. Cassie appears outside the dining hall, but Oliver signals for her not to enter and to hide. Suddenly, a man antagonizes the soldiers, asking to leave, and everyone starts shooting. Scared, Cassie runs into the forest. Shortly after, the soldiers leave the dining hall without any civilians. Cassie returns and grabs Sam's teddy bear. She enters the dining hall and finds Oliver dead among the others. Before leaving, Cassie takes a rifle and runs back into the forest. Later, the children arrive at the base. As they get off the buses, they are given numbers and instructed to wait. The first number called is Ben's. He is taken inside the facility. An army doctor examines him while Sergeant Resnick questions him. He tells her that his family died in the previous waves. Resnick tells him he is lucky because he can avenge their deaths. Like the rest of the children, he will help in the fight against the aliens. She injects a tracker into his neck. Ben asks how they can fight the aliens if they do not know what they are. Resnick takes him to another room to demonstrate how they can detect them. She shows him a boy connected to wires and then gives him a special visor to see the alien. It is a parasite that infects humans and controls them. No extraction method works, so the only way to kill the parasite is to kill the host. She hands him a switch to kill the boy. Ben hesitates but eventually does it. Having done this, Resnick welcomes him into the fight. Simultaneously, Cassie is surviving alone. She hides in the forest and thinks she cannot trust anyone. Her main goal is to reach the base and find her younger brother. After a long journey, she runs out of water when she sees the store where we first saw her. That night, Cassie falls asleep with her brother's teddy bear. The next day, she arrives at a highway filled with abandoned cars. She finds bodies scattered among the vehicles and realizes they were killed recently. Cassie sees an alien drone and is immediately hit in the thigh. She hides under a truck for a moment but remembers her brother and decides to shoot her way out of the situation. Unfortunately, she stumbles and falls, and then passes out. Meanwhile, Vosh prepares the children for the imminent battle against the aliens. He tells them that the aliens are planning a final attack, a fifth wave. If the aliens succeed in this wave, humanity will be eliminated. The children are trained to be soldiers, learning how to fight, defend themselves, and kill, with Vosh constantly in their ears proclaiming them as humanity's last hope. Vosh asks if they can do what he asks, and all except Ben and Sam confirm that they can. Cassie wakes up in a bed, with her wound bandaged and connected to and for. Suddenly, someone climbs the stairs, and as he enters, she pretends to be asleep. The next day, Cassie removes the 4-needle, grabs her backpack to find her weapon, but falls because her wound is still fresh. She hears the man approaching and gets back into bed. When the young man enters, he says he knows she is awake and soon introduces himself as Evan. Cassie asks where she is, and Evan explains how he found her and brought her there. She asks for her weapon, but he says he did not see any when he found her. Suddenly, Evan realizes Cassie might have burst her stitches, and when he confirms his suspicion, he carries her to the bathroom to take care of her again. While cleaning her wound, Evan tells her she has been there for a week. Cassie then asks how far they are from the base, and he tells her. Later, he asks why she inquired about the base, and Cassie tells him about Sam. Evan says he wanted to help her because he could not save his family and needed to feel more human. At the base, the children are playing poker, already accustomed to their new roles. They talk about the new recruit joining their squad when Resnick brings her in and introduces her as Ringer. As soon as Ringer puts her things away, she goes to Ben and asks if he is the leader of the squad. The girl wants to assert her dominance over him and everyone else, so she belittles them by belittling their squad and threatening them. Ringer asks Ben if he plays chess when one of the other kids tells her he doesn't, but they can play strip poker. She punches him in the throat and says she will not tolerate any demeaning and sexist comments. Teacup likes her attitude. Simultaneously, Cassie is planning her route to the base while still staying with Evan. While he is in the yard, she goes to his room and finds a hidden compartment. Cassie finds her gun hidden there. She takes it, hurriedly packs, and limps out of the house. Cassie activates a trap, and Evan grabs her, disarms her, and pulls her down, telling her to be quiet. An alien ship flies over them, and a hunter searches for them in the forest. When they return to the house, Evan tells her he didn't tell her about the gun because he was afraid she might be an alien. Cassie is perplexed, as he also has reasons to be distrusted. Evan tells her that the hunter is an alien and tracks people along with the alien drones. They talk about her going to the base to get her brother, but Evan says he might be dead. Cassie disagrees and says she will go to get him. Evan follows her to her room and says he will go with her. He says he will take her there, even though he can't promise what they will find at the base. Meanwhile, Ben approaches Ringer. She tells him that, unlike him, she had to take care of herself even before the aliens arrived, so she was ready for the end of the world. Ringer was doing well before being dragged onto the school bus. Ben corrects her, saying they were rescued. She says they were recruited. The two become training partners, and Ben tells her that if he can take her down, she will teach him and the rest of the squad how to shoot. She agrees, but he is easily taken down. Unfortunately, she gets a bit cocky, giving Ben an opening to take her down. Cassie and Evan are on their way to the base. She asks him to teach her how to disarm someone like he disarmed her. Evan treats her with superiority, and she confronts him, saying she's not trying to be tough, but she promised her brother she would save him. Cassie makes her point, and Evan decides to show her how. First, he demonstrates on her, then lets her try a few times and also teaches her how to subdue her attacker. She thanks him, and they continue their journey to the base. There, Ringer is teaching her squad how to shoot. She gives some tips and tells them to try again. Resnick joins them and tells Ben that the colonel wants to see him. The boy follows her to a war room. Vosh calls him and informs him about several simultaneous attacks in different cities, saying that the fifth wave of the invasion has begun. He shows him an improved, mobile version of the visor they used in the medical area before, with which they can see the aliens on the front lines. Vosh tells him they need to test the visors in the field and will send Ben's squad as one of 4 to do it the next day. He tells him to bring his squad back whole. In the forest, Cassie wakes up in the tent alone. She searches for Evan and finds him bathing in the river. He notices her watching him, and she flees. When Evan returns to the camp, he finds Cassie looking at her photos. He asks about her best friend and recognizes Ben in a picture from the description in her diary. Cassie is embarrassed that he read it. Evan then sees a photo of Sam and says he can't wait to meet him. They pack their things and leave the camp, following the train tracks until nightfall and finding shelter. That same night, Ben and Sam can't sleep and talk. The boy starts singing as Cassie used to sing to him before everything happened. Ben sings with him, annoying the rest of the squad except Ringer. Meanwhile, Evan helps Cassie change the dressing on her wound. She kisses him and thanks him. The following morning, the squad boards a helicopter to get to the test site. Ringer asks Ben where Sam is, and he says he has food poisoning, but in reality, he locked the boy in the bathroom to keep him safe on the base. He also left his medallion with Sam. The squad arrives at the site, and an officer asks Ben what their mission is. He says they are to infiltrate the enemy nest and eliminate them. She reminds them that the visors light up green for aliens and that once done, they should signal for extraction. The helicopter drops them off and departs as they enter enemy territory. Ben leads his squad of kids forward when one of them spots 2 aliens just ahead. Before the squad can engage, they start shooting at them. Finding themselves in a difficult situation, they hide in an alley, and Ben tells them to run and take shelter in a bus. He and Ringer are the last to enter, so Ben closes the doors. They come under more enemy fire, and one of them is hit. Ringer realizes they can't stay there, so she will create a distraction for the enemy, allowing them to find another shelter. Ben tells the others to prepare to run when he gives the signal. Ringer shouts for them to run, and as they do, the bus she rigged explodes behind them. The squad takes shelter in an abandoned mall, and after checking that it's safe, they settle there. Ringer joins them and immediately expresses her suspicion that something isn't right with the aliens. She wonders how they can cause earthquakes and yet be afraid of an army of children. Ringer decides to escape the army, so she removes her tracker. The moment she does, the others identify her as an alien in their visors and panic. They don't know what to do until Ben realizes what's happening. He removes his tracker, and the others see him as an alien too. Ben says he isn't an alien and that the people shooting at them before weren't either. He says Resnick and Vosh lied to them, and that green actually means human and that the visors and trackers were fake. The real test was on them to see how they would react to the situation. When the others question his logic, he explains that the army is actually the aliens, manipulating children to do their dirty work and eliminate the rest of the survivors. Ben says they aren't fighting the 5th wave but are the 5th wave. Teacup asks what they should do, and he tells everyone to remove their trackers. Ben will be the only one to return to the base to save Sam. He tells Ringer to shoot him to make it look real. Simultaneously, hunters find Evan and Cassie. Evan gets out of the truck, and one of them says he's out of his drone sector, then shoots him. Cassie wakes up and sees Evan fighting the two men and tells her to run. Before doing so, Cassie grabs the gun and looks for ammo when she sees something strange, and then Evan falls onto the car's windshield. One of the men goes after her, and she briefly escapes until he grabs her outside the car. Cassie fires the gun, but Evan comes to her rescue. He fights the man with incredible strength and kills him in the end. Cassie realizes something is wrong, so she threatens him with the gun. Evan tells her he is both human and alien, a double agent created long before the invasion began. When the ship reached orbit, his alien part awakened. Cassie asks if he killed her family, but Evan says it was the disease. He tells her that unlike his species, who don't believe in love, when he saw her, he fell in love with her and regained his human side. Ben was tracking Cassie before, and when another hunter shot her, he killed him to save her. He is now a firm believer in love because of her. Cassie prepares to shoot him when he tells her the truth about the army. She walks away, and Evan tells her she shouldn't be armed when she gets there because they will kill her. Cassie tells him if he follows her, she will kill him. Meanwhile, Ben gets to a helicopter and returns to the base. Later, Cassie pretends to fall in front of a school bus, and they take her in. Moments later at the base, her number is called, and she receives the same treatment as the others. While Resnick was showing the alien to Cassie, the girl hits her on the head. They fight for a while, but Cassie kills her and then removes the tracker. She takes Resnick's clothes and searches the base for her brother. Ben is in a meeting with Colonel Vosh, but he knows what the boy is planning. He asks what he knows, and Ben says he knows what they are, then realizes they are going to kill him. Vosh says humans didn't do anything to deserve what happened to them, they just occupied the space they needed. He then reveals another truth about them and the humans, namely that they have been doing the same things to others for centuries. Suddenly, an officer enters and says Resnick was killed, as well as 3 guards at the west gate. An explosion is heard from inside the base. Vosh orders the Child Army to be deployed and his officers to find out who is attacking them. Ben fights and kills the soldier holding him and removes his tracker. Simultaneously, Cassie is running through the corridors when another explosion hits. Vosh orders drones to be deployed at the site so they can see who is attacking them. Cassie finds Ben and instantly disarms him. They recognize each other, and she says she is looking for Sam. Ben tells her the army is the aliens and they are deploying her brother into battle. He says they need to get to him quickly, or she won't see him again. Cassie trusts him, and they go to find him together. 2 soldiers stop them when Evan appears and incapacitates them. Evan tells them he planted the bombs and that once the last of the planes with the children leave, he will destroy the base once and for all. He is sorry for lying to Cassie and says he chose his human side because of her. Ben and Cassie run to find Sam before Evan blows up the base. They reach the transport lines only to discover all the children are there. Both move between the lines to locate Sam when Cassie finally sees him and reaches him. Ben shows them an escape door, and as soon as they reunite, Cassie gives him the teddy bear. Ben removes his tracker, and they escape. Simultaneously, Vosh is evacuating the base. He sees Ben and the others running, so he gets into the helicopter and goes after them. Fortunately, he can't kill them, and then everyone watches the base explode. Suddenly, Ringer and the rest of Ben's squad appear in an army car and rescue them. Cassie watches the base explosion and thinks of Evan. Later, the squad settles somewhere, resting and eating. Ben talks to Cassie and asks what they should do. She says they need to save the other children, but she doesn't know how yet. Ben says they should worry about that the next day. He invites her to join the rest of the squad and wait for a better tomorrow.